Welcome to another episode of ThinkBox Radio, a podcast inspired by Sears ThinkBox, the innovation center at Case Western Reserve University. Our goal is to share some of the magic that happens at the Case School of Engineering and to inspire your own innovations and startups. ThinkBox Radio is produced by Abby Murphy and is sponsored by the Case Alumni Association. Now, let's meet our host, Robert Smith, the former economic development reporter for the Cleveland Plain Dealer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of ThinkBox Radio, the podcast from the Case Alumni Association. We're coming to you today from Sears ThinkBox, widely acclaimed as the largest open access makerspace on an American college campus. And our guest today is Jim McGuffin-Cawley, the faculty director of this amazing place. Jim, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks, Bob. It is my joy to be here.
So we're on the third floor, surrounded by laser cutters and routers and 3D printers and things I can't even understand. This building has 7 stories of resources and innovation labs, and we're going to get into a little of that. But Jim, help us understand what goes on here. Could you maybe describe a couple of projects that are underway right now in this building?
Yeah, sure. Or maybe even broaden that out a little bit. So I'm delighted that we are back to pre-pandemic levels. So ThinkBox is back. It's open to all of the students. It's open to all the faculty, all the staff, and the community. And our usage levels have risen right back to where they were. We've got a couple of exciting developments that are going on right now. We had a gift from the Krieger Family Endowment that's allowed us to put together a faculty fellowship program, which are small grants that are modeled on the University Center for Innovation in Teaching and Excellence that allows faculty to develop new activities that use ThinkBox in the curriculum.
Oh, so these are aimed towards faculty.
They are aimed towards faculty and specifically for faculty who are looking to get across a difficult concept or provide some kind of immersive learning experience or something hands-on, something that historically has been very challenging for them to do.
And why would ThinkBox help them to do that?
Oh, it is, if you think about our mission, we really are here to try and help people accomplish their goals. One way we can do that is by helping the faculty overcome what have historically been struggles for them in the classroom.
For example?
So we have 5 programs underway in this initial grant offering. 2 of them are out of the medical school where they're using the new digital 3D printer, the digital anatomy 3D printer that we added with a gift from Joe Mandato last year.
An alumnus.
An alum and they are going to be printing out defective hearts as models for students to be trained in. And it's going to, for the first time, allow them a broad portfolio of uncommon things to be in the hands of the students. And so, whereas historically they could only use sketches or diagrams in books, or nowadays the CAD models that are in virtual space, the students will actually be able to manipulate this. They'll gain through the sense of touch some level of familiarity before they actually work with patients in the future. So and it just wasn't possible before.
This is an anatomy class.
It is.
Oh my, these are med students then.
Yeah. But we have an equally, I think, interesting one coming out of biomedical engineering, which is somebody who's trying to get students to understand partial differential equations by building physical models that involve the flow of water. And so if you can take a physical model that replicates the kind of behavior that you would see in a mathematical expression, you're able to give something new to the students, a new perspective that really offers the possibility of them getting an insight and a comfort level that they otherwise wouldn't have. And again, it's just something that historically wasn't achievable, but by partnering with the faculty and with ThinkBox, we're able to bring that to the students.
Fascinating. I'm sure that's something you've been looking forward to.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things I think is really a good choice on our part is that all of these programs have to have a pairing between a ThinkBox staff member and a university faculty member. And so we're building a relationship that can be leveraged into the future as well. And we do have some other interesting things going on. We've expanded the number of entrepreneurial companies that are located on the 7th floor. We have had some tremendous success with the student clubs who are housed on the 5th floor.
Explain the 7th floor a little bit. What do you mean by the entrepreneurial companies?
So if you remember, ThinkBox is built on this vertically integrated model. And the 7th floor is actually a space that's available to undergraduate students to set up a company in, actually at no charge to a certain point in their development. And then we also have space for that can be rented that allows companies that are already established or fledgling companies at a very low rate to work up on that floor. So it's it's an incubator space that's co-located with all the facilities of ThinkBox and the expertise of the ThinkBox staff.
So kind of the pinnacle of the innovation center.
It is a launching pad for these companies to build up and move off campus and flourish, hopefully staying nearby.
That's excellent. In fact, in one of our earlier episodes, we explored a company called Cleaner, which is 3 engineering students who have designed a filter for the washing machine to filter out microplastics. And who knew that the wash is one of the main contributors to microplastics in our environment. Mm-hmm. And they've been winning pitch competitions, and it looks like they're doing very well on the 7th floor.
They are, and I think they are really poised for success. It's going to be a very exciting year for those students.
We should point out that students aren't here right now. It's Christmas break, so it's quiet. We got a rare quiet time here at ThinkBox.
Yes. We, the last couple of weeks in December, we were busy from the moment we opened we had to kick them out at the end of the day.
Is that right?
But we are taking a breath, doing a lot of maintenance on equipment, getting some reconfiguration to some space, getting some construction done on the 1st floor. So we're productively using this time when the students are away.
Okay, good. Jim, take us back to how this all started. We're calling this episode ThinkBox at 10. You guys have celebrated your 10th anniversary. And every college has a makerspace now. But when ThinkBox came online a decade ago, it was still a new thing. And what was the catalyst? What was the thought behind ThinkBox a decade ago here?
So it's really an interesting story. It's one that's been told a lot of different ways. It's a complicated story. So I'll give you sort of the perspective I had.
Okay.
So when this first came into being, I was the Associate Dean for Academics in the Case School of Engineering. And so I had a supporting role to try and allow the early incarnations of ThinkBox to come into being. But I think there was a number of different things that all happened at the same time. There was an unmet need on the part of the students. The kind of student who comes to the Case School of Engineering are students who want to build things, or students who want to innovate things. They really are a highly motivated group of people who want to make an impact. And Dustin Tyler had responded to that desire by having a club called CREATE, which stands for something. Case Reserve Engineers, I think, is the CRE.
Dustin Tyler, the professor of biomedical engineering.
Yes, who is now working on the augmented human being, the Human Fusions Project.
Yes.
He took it upon himself to be the advisor of this group of students. They worked out of Olin Building in a lab on the 1st floor. There was Gary Winnick, who was seeing that as we were developing the interdisciplinary centers in the School of Engineering, that we had the Institute for Advanced Materials, Great Lakes Energy Institute, Human Health, and then Gary Winnick really put forward this idea of engineering design.
Gary Winnick, the material scientist.
Yeah, macromolecular science and engineering department chair.
Okay.
And he was, at the time, the director of the Master of Engineering Management program, the MEM.
Oh.
And he saw a need for engineering design. And so he was pushing an idea institute that was focused on design. And so there was a lot of unmet need that was being responded to informally. But the real pivotal catalytic events was Barry Romich and Larry Sears.
2 alumni.
2 alums, and both of whom had found the employment that they had on campus when they were undergraduates was pivotal in their careers. Barry was looking to find an opportunity to give back and to support hands-on education. And then President Snyder actually asked Larry Sears if he would look around campus for a way to most productively do what Barry was looking to achieve. And it was Larry who really had the vision to see that this 7-story, 50,000 square foot building was being underutilized as low-cost storage. And
Right, because before this, ThinkBox started just in the basement of Olin, as you say?
yeah,
Okay.
second floor, actually in Glennon, the other end of that 3-building complex.
And we should explain that Larry Sears is, of course, Sears ThinkBox's namesake. And Larry invented remote meter reading,
Yes.
an amazing entrepreneur.
And had done wonderful things in support of the department he had been a student in. What was then the electrical engineering and computer science department. Over the previous decade, Larry had really responded to his alma mater and supported the circuits lab and all that in the department, and had assumed a teaching role at the junior level. That's a very sought after course.
Yes, still teaches here, and in fact is an award-winning faculty member.
Award-winning teacher, absolutely. And so he was a logical guy for the president to reach out to see what we could do with this opportunity. And then that vision was able to be turned into something that was broadly appealing. There's a wall 1 floor below us that shows a high number of donors of significant amounts, that the vision that was realized out of that sort of situation where we had these students who we knew could benefit from this kind of an experience. Once that vision and the initial resources had been identified, it caught on. It really connected to what a broad number of alums saw as something. You'll often hear them say that, I wish we had this when I was a student, but I think that's only part of it. I really think that they gathered around the idea that this is what the modern student needs. Now that we're in an era where the students are coming through the AP track in high school, where they spend a lot of time in the virtual world, using computers and various techniques to move quickly through the academic subjects. What they really needed in order to be what is, a successful modern day engineer was to connect that in a deep way with the experience that they would be able to get in the hands-on world in a comprehensive environment. It's, you talked about how everybody has a makerspace, but ThinkBox really is much more than a makerspace. I like to say that we're a makerspace, fabrication studio, and innovation center that's connected in a seamless whole. And that is a very uncommon thing on academic campuses. Those different aspects of the creative process are often separated. And here they are integrated, literally integrated, physically, but also conceptually.
And students love it. Isn't it, don't surveys show that the majority of it many of our students cite ThinkBox as a reason they came to CASE?
They do. So there's a couple of things that I would point to. So we have the ability, based on the student IDs as they come into the building, to just track where, how many are here, what time of day they're here, and that kind of thing. And there's a couple of really interesting things in that data. One of them is just the sheer number of students who come here. We get 25,000 visits from Case Western Reserve University undergraduates each semester.
Wow.
And about 8,000 in the summer.
Wow.
And that corresponds to about 2,700 unique IDs. So
I'm assuming the library competes with that. I don't know, though.
I am a great supporter of the library and the athletic center, and I never consider it a competition. We are serving different facets of the collegiate experience.
Yes, good way to put it.
But our numbers are high numbers. In fact, it's just shy of 40% of all of the undergraduates at CASE will have come into the building. And 90% of them in a survey that we put out every year will say they came here to use the facility. It's only about 10% who take a tour and then decide that they're more interested in doing something else. You know,
Okay.
maybe they're going to be an undergraduate researcher, or they're going to just work.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they're working in the museum rather than
Yeah.
working in ThinkBox, for example. And also in that survey data, we find that of the users who responded to the survey, that 3/4 of them were aware of ThinkBox when they were applying to the university.
Is that right?
And of those, 3/4 of them said access to ThinkBox was at least part of their decision-making process to come to this university. And it's really, I think, a great, one of the consequences of that is we're developing a community, that we are bringing in students who are interested in working in a collaborative space and who are interested in leveraging the opportunities that ThinkBox affords them. And so they support each other, and they end up working in collaborative groups, and they will, the other quarter of the users who come here who weren't intending to when they came to campus are often led into the space because they see their peers making use of the opportunity.
So their roommates doing something in ThinkBox so they get an idea?
Yeah, I think that is the case. We only know this anecdotally, but we hear a lot that there are people who will see their roommate brings back something that illustrates a capacity of ThinkBox that's the second student hadn't been aware of. And so that leads them to be curious, and they end up coming and joining the community.
Excellent. Boy, just how the early visionaries thought of it. You did mention Barry Romich. I wanted to include him real quick. He's an interesting alum. He started a company outside of Cleveland that does some kind of, it helps people with disabilities communicate. What is his expertise?
And I don't know the full range of the company's expertise, but it's Prentke Romich.
That's right.
They were early in these augmentation of communication devices for people who had pretty profound compromises to their ability to communicate. And it was a great example of what can happen informally at Case, because Barry was from the engineering side. It was a senior medical faculty member that he was working with. They crossed that sort of intergenerational and disciplinary divide and came up with some unique solutions that have proved very durable in the commercial marketplace. So the impact in the translational role is one that has endured for decades. And Barry is a remarkably generous soul, and it shows up in many ways. He's a great supporter of his local community. He is a great supporter of our institution. He likes to build a bridge between the two. There are students from Wayne County who come every year to ThinkBox, and that introduces them to the campus of Case Western, which otherwise might not have taken place.
So, Jim, give us a sense of what you have here. I know it's 7 floors. You can't describe it all, but what would be the key pieces at ThinkBox so people understand what the resources are?
So we are 7 floors. We often tell a narrative that you could enter on the ground floor and move up as one way to succeed. The ground floor is the community floor. That actually is in the process of being built out within 2 weeks of the broadcast of this. So you can build community on that floor. The floor above it is the open format design floor, which has been very actively used in a lot of different creative ways. The Rocket team meets there, Design for America meets there, because their meetings are so large. They have 100 students. These are student groups. And then we get to the 3 and 4, which are really the fabrication and the makerspace floors. And it's a pretty broad range of facilities that we have. On the 3rd floor, where we are, there is, as you mentioned earlier, there's laser scanning of 2 types. There's 3D printers of 3, soon to be 4 types. There is electric circuit manufacturing. There is sewing, there is embroidery, there is photography, there's vinyl cutting.
I've heard it's advanced enough that some local manufacturers come and use it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Also in our survey, we had about 1/5 of the respondents were community users who come to ThinkBox.
Oh, is that right?
And the two most common way they self-declared was that they were a sole proprietor or member of a small business.
That brings up an important point. ThinkBox is open to the public.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's widely known in Cleveland. Anyone can come and use it.
We are continually working on that. We are in the process of a final set of interviews for a program developer who is going to be at least 50% focused on this question of awareness and making sure that we have programs that are both aligned with what community organizations have helped us identify as relevant, and then also to really work on awareness. It's surprising.
Sure. Well, what would you tell them, Jim? What if somebody out there had an idea for a better mousetrap or a better way to make a dish? What would you tell her? How would she get started?
So if you were to go to our website, you can look at the equipment that's available. You can look at the trainings and the programs that are available. But there's also the opportunity to schedule what we call a consultation.
So if someone wants to get started here or is wondering if they want to get started here, Google ThinkBox, go to the website, schedule a consultation.
Yeah. And then to keep going as we describe the facility, the 5th floor is for long-term projects. Students actually have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week access to that space.
Okay.
And we're able to do that because we have an exceptionally good culture here in terms of risk management. And then 6, we were just talking about, 6 is services for entrepreneurs and a business center. So it looks like a business center. It looks very different than the room that we're in.
It does. It looks like you're walking into Eaton downtown or something.
Exactly. By design, yes. And there's hotel offices that people can occupy for meetings, for Zoom interviews, for meeting with potential business partners. There is the IP Venture Clinic, and we have added LaunchNet, the university's service center for undergraduate entrepreneurs, who I'm sure you've talked to in the context of the CES show. They just returned from that again this year. And then on the 7th floor is the Beal Institute for Entrepreneurship, which again has a number of complementary facets to what LaunchNet does in terms of serving entrepreneurs. And then we already mentioned that the 7th floor is where you could start a business and you can occupy it.
And we should point out that some of these companies are alumni companies. They're not students anymore.
Yes. They started as students. It's interesting because we see both. We see people who use ThinkBox actively as a student. They're now a young alum, and they will continue to use ThinkBox.
Okay.
But we also see alums who graduated while I was in junior high, which was a long time ago.
Is that right?
Who are perhaps pursuing something that had been, something that had been a long-standing goal, whether it was, something outside of what their profession was in some cases, and they will come and they will be able to engage in that and use ThinkBox as a way to do that. Again, if we were to look at our mission statement hanging over the door there, the goal of ThinkBox is to provide resources and expertise to help people accomplish their goals. We really try to respond to a broad range of goals. If you're interested in doing research or augmenting your class, we will vigorously support that. But if you want to do something independent, like build that wooden kayak that you always admired, we'll support that as well. And there's a lot of synergy between the two. Again, from the survey results, we find a lot of people come over for curiosity and hobby work. Mm-hmm. And then once they understand what they can do here, they apply that in their academic environment. And so we don't have to start with the academics in order to have a big impact on the academics.
Love it. Hey, so Jim, we've heard of MIT's Fab Lab and Vanderbilt's Foundry, and every college has some kind of maker space, maybe even an innovation center. How do we stack up, and who do you see as models, and is there really anyone at this level? I don't know.
Case was one of the founding members of the Higher Education Makerspace Initiative. They go by HEMI. And if you look up HEMI Maker on the internet, you'll find it. And it was originally a collection of 6 very competitive, selective, research-intensive institutions that had these maker spaces. And we continue to be an important member of that. We were on the programming committee for the annual meeting. We just came back from the annual meeting, and Case talked about the unique way we staff the building in terms of our 12 professional staff supporting 30-ish students who are working as techs, who are the primary interface to the user, and talked about the advantages of that, where there are issues that you have to be aware of to make sure it's going to work successfully, and what the effect of that is on the student who serves the role. But we were the lead-off talk at the meeting. It produced a lot of inquiries that are being followed up on. We're still seen as a leader and a model in terms of the way we implement things. We remain, as you mentioned at the beginning, the largest open access makerspace on a college campus. We're very uncommon in terms of being able to be housed in one large, reasonably centrally located. You know, if I had a magic wand, I would move this building a little bit closer to the center campus.
Sure.
But Case, you know, we have a meeting from the Singapore Institute of Technology. They're flying to the United States, and part of the purpose of their visit is to come to Cleveland and to visit us to find out how we have done things and what they could learn from us. That remains a role that we'd like to serve, both nationally and internationally. But having said all this, we're, again, I think I said this earlier, we are the HEMI group and the academic makerspaces generally are an incredibly mutually supportive group. We like to be very open, very positive, and support each other really in order to serve the modern student in higher education. So we like to be understood to be a very elite and a very unique operation, but at the same time, we want to help everybody else move forward.
That's very in tune with the maker vibe. I think.
Absolutely.
I think. All right, listen, I hope anybody who's heard this show today, if they haven't been to ThinkBox, they maybe want to get here and see what they could be doing. Jim, thanks so much. I think we're going to wrap it up with that, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of ThinkBox Radio from Case Western Reserve University, where our motto is Think Beyond the Possible.
And that concludes another episode of ThinkBox Radio, stories inspired by America's leading college innovation center. Thanks for listening. You can find past episodes on our website, casealumni.org. Goodbye from Case Western Reserve University, where our motto is Think Beyond the Possible.